Hey guys, DZ Movies here. Today we're looking at the first episode of Season 4 of Stranger Things. Incoming spoilers. Sit back, relax and enjoy. A child on a bicycle handing out newspapers to all the residents of a small town, one landing right at the door of Dr. Brenner, who we have in the picture, during his morning routine, making his tea, doing a crossword puzzle, shaving and dressing. Moments later the action shifts to September 8, 1979, at Hawkins National Laboratories, where we have the same Dr. Brenner in the foreground, entering a room full of special children, whom he used as his test subjects because of their unique abilities. He makes contact with one of the children, asking him if he wants to do more tests, taking him with him from the common room. Once in a testing room, the boy is seated on a chair and a device is placed on his head that monitored him during the tests. Dr. Brenner draws a sun and an animal on a sheet of paper, and the young man manages to see what the old man had drawn, after which he suggests something more difficult this time. He suggests that he find Dr. Ellie using his mind. The young man succeeds, giving Dr. Brenner clues as to her whereabouts, who she is, what she is doing, until something disturbs him. The young man's nose is bleeding and then an alarm goes off to lift the old man out of his chair. He checks the intercom to find out what is going on, but before he can find out what is causing it, the young man in the chair informs him that Dr. Ellie and the child she was with are dead. Shortly afterwards, screams are heard from the hallways of the lab, and as Dr. Brenner heads for the door it explodes, leaving him unconscious. When he comes to, he finds that the young man is dead, and horror and screams still fill the hallways filled with the blood and bodies of children and employees. He follows the noises to the common room where a single child covered in blood is still standing. He stares him in the eye and asks what did he do? Accusing him of being responsible for the disaster. The action returns to the present where Jane composes a letter to her dear Mike updating him on the latest details about her and their friends. She tells him how Joyce has a new job, Will is busy most of the time with his paintings, Jonathan is stressed about college, and she confesses that she has adjusted over time and is now very happy. She also writes in the letter that there is little time left until spring break, and she is very anxious to see Mike again, wondering if he misses her as much, signing herself with love, 11. The action moves to Mike's house, which is interrupted as he reads the letter from 11, who rushes off to the high school while his mother nags him to be home by 9 a.m. from his D&D club if he wants to catch tomorrow morning's flight to California. Everyone heads to the gym where the high school team was going to have a basketball game, including Max, who is stopped by the high school counselor, and asks her to come see her after school today. In the gym the captain of the basketball team gives an emotional and motivational speech to the whole team, promising the spectators that they will win tonight and win the trophy. Lucas, who can't play D&D tonight because he's on the basketball team. The two try to convince him to drop out of the basketball game, but he is mocked by the whole high school for wanting to be popular, so he asks them to postpone the D&D game. Meanwhile 11 is taunted by one of her classmates while presenting her project, embarrassing her in front of the class. Max shows up at the counselor's office as promised. She is asked about her grades, her mother, how she is feeling, how she sleeps, if she has nightmares, questions that only stress her out more than help her. Max nervously leaves the office, where she is greeted by Lucas, her ex-boyfriend, who wants to invite her to his basketball game, and also to see how she is doing, expressing his concern for her. Max turns him down and leaves, giving him his ticket back and wishing him luck, then goes into the bathroom to get a pill. Before she leaves the bathroom she hears something behind her, and when she returns she notices that the noise was made by a colleague of hers throwing up. Max asks her if she's okay, but she tells him to go away and leave her alone. As soon as Max leaves, the light starts to dim and turn on, and the young woman hallucinates seeing a monster trying to get in on her, and hears a demonic voice calling her name, and ordering her to open the door. The young woman screams in fright back at the monster to disappear a few times, until everything returns to normal. The action moves to the dining room, where Mike and Dusty appear, heading to their friend's table in the D&D club, while Eddie seems super anxious about the game that night, until Mike and Dusty ruin his mood when they ask for a postponement of the D&D game because their partner Lucas can't attend. Visibly upset with everyone else at the table, he forces them to find a replacement so the game won't be postponed. The action then moves to Joyce's house. She calls a friend to tell him that she received a package from Russia in which she found a doll. He instructs her to check if there is a message attached to it, and finally tells her to break it. Mike and Dustin try hard to find Lucas a replacement for the D&D game but without success. Almost resigned, until Dustin comes up with an idea, he asks Mike to follow him. As soon as they leave, The action shifts to Chrissy, the young cheerleader, in the bathroom, walking to the woods behind the high school. She was going to meet Eddie, from whom she wanted to buy drugs, but before he gets there, she hallucinates again. The two chat for a while, reminiscing about where they first met, and then Chrissy asks him if he has anything stronger for sale. Then the scene shifts to the California high school, where Jane's teacher was handing out some graded papers, being disappointed in her performance, which got a 4. Jane is on her way home, ready to leave high school behind in the disappointment of today, but in the high school yard, Angela stops her, and then her friends destroy her project. Jane gets angry and wants to fight back and tries to use her powers to hurt Angela, but they don't work, and all she does is draw laughter from those around her. Laughter stopped by the appearance of a teacher, who, seeing Jane's project on the floor, asks her who did this. Jane tries to tell her that it's her fault, and that she just tripped, but the teacher realizes and takes Angela with her to hold her accountable. In the meantime, Joyce manages to break the doll, and inside she finds a note saying Hop is alive. The basketball game is about to start. Everyone is in the stands waiting for it, except Mike and Dustin, who show up with Lucas' replacement at the D&D game. It seems Dustin brings Lucas' sister Erica into the game. The atmosphere heats up, both in the D&D game and in the basketball game, where one of the host team's boys is injured and the coach replaces him with Lucas, and now is his time to show what he's really capable of. And our heroes Mike, Erica and Dustin have a tough choice to make when they run into a strong opponent in their game, but they choose to fight. The games are coming to a close and emotions are running high on both sides. The final seconds of the basketball game features Lucas shooting the ball for a game-winning basket in the last phase of the game, while Erica rolls the dice in the D&D game for their last chance to survive and win the game. Simultaneously, both games are won, bringing joy to the young faces. Lucas is the star of the team for the evening, bringing victory and the trophy for his team. However, on his way home, he sees his friends coming out of the D&D game happy, leaving him disappointed that they played without him and didn't procrastinate. The action shifts to Max, who is at home, disturbed by her dog's barking. She brings him some food, at which point he observes Eddie coming home with Chrissy to give her some drugs. While Eddie searches for the right stuff, Chrissy falls prey to his hallucinations again, this time waking up in her former home, being chased by a demon possessing her mother's body, and when Eddie returns he finds her seemingly hypnotized. As Chrissy runs through a mirage from this demon that was following her, Eddie tries hard to wake her up but to no avail, and when the latter demon reaches her, he tells her it's time for her suffering to end. Eddie, who is trying to wake her up, suddenly notices that the girl's body begins to levitate, then she is hit by the ceiling, and her limbs begin to break and deform, a scenario that horrifies Eddie. Subscribe to this channel if you want more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to turn on notification to help this channel.